What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Cleveland Pulse podcast. As always, I am your host, Justin Harold, and with me, my co host, Jeff Santa. This is episode 20, and we will be previewing the Cleveland Browns versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Jeff, how you doing today, my guy?
Good, good. 20 episodes deep. That's love it.
It's impressive. I'm glad that we've stuck with it, and
Yep.
we've been consistent about it since the season started. So it's awesome, great stuff. So, Jeff, me and you have been talking about this game for a while now. We've gone a little bit in depth about some things, but before we get into the game itself, I wanted to talk to you about there are some. I don't even know that it's fair to call them or ethical to call them rumors because it came from uh, essentially like a fan page kind of for trade rumors for the Browns. But the trade deadline is coming up. The Browns need some help in terms of defense. Maybe you could argue with the wide receiver position, considering we've been injured. um,
Nope.
DBs, linebackers, probably primarily safeties and linebackers are the 2 points.
Defense.
Yeah, defense altogether.
Anyone.
We've seen teams give up high quality players. Carlos Dunlap traded to the Seattle Seahawks. I would have liked to maybe gauge what the market was on him, what kind of compensation. I don't really know what he was traded for. I think it was just picks in general.
I didn't care
Um,
for him.
yeah, you told me that. Everson Griffin was traded from Dallas to Detroit, I believe. That's
Yeah,
another
that's
edge
that.
rusher. The reason I bring those two guys up is because I feel um, the Browns need someone to complement Miles on the other side as of right now. You sent me the graphic of Miles has more sacks by himself than whole teams do. And, if we could generate some more pressure without just Miles being that guy with a four-man pressure, it would do wonders for our defense. But what are your thoughts on trade rumors and just the Browns in general going out and possibly acquiring a player to fill some roles?
Yeah, I don't really think that those stories on Twitter are accurate. Just just because of the source solely that it really wasn't anybody credible, at least in my eyes. But I mean, I don't think we need a wide receiver. I really don't. I know that they're probably concerned about Landry with a broken rib. That's probably the primary concern with Odell Beckham Jr. Sadly being lost for the season. But we get Kadero Hodge reactivated from the IR this week. It's a good step in the right direction, considering it seems like at least Stefanski and Baker have a good relationship with him. That was someone who wasn't even on me and yours radar to start the season. But between him, Landry, DPJ looked like he had some upside, and Higgins. Higgins, I think is one of those guys where he's kind of been pushed underneath the rug a little bit within our system, and I think he's got the best connection with Baker Mayfield out of anybody on the team on the offensive side of the ball. I think that was pretty apparent last week with his big game. Finally, a 100-yard receiver. Took 6 weeks, and it was Rashard Higgins. So, I mean, whoever predicted that one, good on you. But I think that the defense definitely is going to be the side of the ball that really we're going to be looking toward. And just another, I'm going to keep harping on it. Just shows kind of how we botched this offseason. I mean, we pick up Austin Hooper. That's cool and all, which we've gotten a little unlucky with him the past couple of weeks. He probably won't play again this week due to an unforeseen circumstance, obviously. But could have signed a linebacker. We let two good linebackers go. And I'm looking at this right now, which is I don't know if this is because you brought up Dunlap, and I don't know if this is just Jadeveon Clowney, but I think the Titans are paying him 12 million, and he turned down 15 million from us. I don't get that at all. I would have, looking back on it, I would have liked to sign him low key.
I think that was primarily on him and his feeling of Cleveland at the time.
Right.
So nothing really that we could do there. I also didn't want to have to pay him the money, but I think looking at it now, I would rather have him over Olivier at this point.
Definitely
But
would have. We should have let
I
Olivier
feel like it's been
walk.
a quiet season for him too. Maybe I'm just not
Yeah.
paying attention to the Titans in general that much, but they are a very top end tier team. So they must be doing something right over there. But yeah, so just to refer back, just for people who might not have seen it or heard about it, there was like a rumor from a pretty really unreliable source that the Browns were talking about trading for Adam Thielen from the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings in a selling mood because of their current record. So I guess there was just a fire sale that, maybe someone kind of picked up on and tried to run with it, and it got some attention from some other like reporter out there, some like verified reporter, and it was just whatever. But yeah, for me personally, I don't see the need to go out and draft a wide receiver like you said, or trade for a wide receiver. Jarvis is going to move into that number one role. He'll grab the most attention from teams, and then Higgins, like you said, first time having a 100-yard wide receiver, he'll step up big. His chemistry with Baker is unreal. DPJ showing flashes of his potential will, end up being that third wide receiver in the set. And then, like you said, Kadero coming back from injury will probably get his workload just primarily from giving guys breathers and such, and probably on blocking plays maybe. But yeah, for me, and it's just consistent with how the defense performs in terms of coverage for me. I did say that I would like to get another DN. I don't know that that's going to happen at this point. I don't know that it's necessary at this point. You got Porter Gustin and Adrian Claiborne, who are very solid pass rushers. I think that Claiborne is better than Vernon at this point in the season. Joe Woods said this today that he thinks Olivier was trying to get past some health concerns earlier in the season, and it's just about to find his rhythm. So I'd love for him to find his rhythm right before the bye week and prove that he can actually do that. But for me, the linebackers and the safeties are the worry. And
need a safety, I think.
But I don't. I really don't. My thing is, you start Ronnie Harrison at strong safety. I'm sorry, he's currently outperforming Carl Joseph in the terms of coverage. I know Carl, he got hurt, but he also did play pretty well. But they're both strong safeties. Unless you move Ronnie into the free safety position, I think he has a very good coverage grade right now, which is important, especially in this game that's coming up. And then you can't go out and get a free safety, like a stud free safety, because you have Grant Delpit returning for next year. If you go out there and you try to add another player like that, you kind of screw up what's going to happen with him eventually. I think if you replace Sendejo with Redwine, it would fix a lot of problems in general. I think we have the guys there to fix that problem. My opinion is that the linebackers don't have a guy that can cover tight ends or guys in the slot very well. I would say if Mac Wilson was 100%, which I don't think he is, I think he would be the best guy. But after that, you got two other linebackers on the field who more often or not are pretty clueless in coverage or not very good in coverage. Talkie completely unreliable in coverage. BJ Goodson, he's gotten interceptions, I think, based off of tip balls, and
he's okay. I think Goodson's okay.
Yeah, but I would still probably put him at like third in terms of like coverage as a linebacker, and then have Malcolm Smith at second. So I think there's room to go out, and I looked at free agents, and honestly, there are free agents that I would rather go out and grab than try to trade for in terms of linebackers. But I don't know. It's the trade deadline, I believe, ends Wednesday of next week. And so I don't know. I don't think a trade's going to happen before the Raiders game. I think they're going to let the Raiders game play out. And then dependent on, again, I've said it in the past that if they win, they're not going to really fix anything. I don't really think that they're going to invest in trying to fix something that's gotten them to 6-2. But if they lose, maybe they take what I've said into consideration, and maybe they move Sendejo out of the starting lineup and as a rotational player, and maybe they right before the deadline they trade for someone or they sign for someone. So we'll see on that. But I don't know. Did you think you had anything else to add on that subject?
I agree with you on like the usage, the part of, Joe Woods and whatever usage he's kind of been like weirdly using, just because I feel like we do have guys that like could step up back there. They just aren't getting used like enough in comparison, like how me and you talk about it. I understand the whole Delpit argument, but I think just because of that injury, I know that a lot of people, come back very well from that's a pretty common football injury that he has. But I think that if you could go out and grab a safety that is even, hopefully on the veteran side, where even if Delpit isn't, he might never be the same again. Unfortunately, you would honestly hope and pray that that's not the case. But even just having some of our younger guys under, I think that was kind of what they were going with trying to go out and get Sandejo, which I mean, it hasn't worked so far, which is, I mean, it could even be another point against my own argument. But getting a guy that's going to go out there and just hopefully help the defense at every level, especially the back seven, I think is kind of what I'm going for there with the safety acquisition. But who are you looking at on the free agent list? I'm interested.
So obviously, I've always talked about Clay Matthews being one of those guys that you could grab as a linebacker slash edge rusher. Still hasn't signed with a team. There was not Denzel Perryman. Denzel Perryman is the one linebacker that I would trade for, but he has injury problems. He's in it's not the San Diego Chargers. What are they now? Are they also like Los Angeles now?
Yeah, they're LA.
Yeah, LA Chargers. He's one player that I've considered, but like he's not my top guy. I'm looking up the list right now, but there is a couple players. There is Cameron Wake. He would be an edge guy, but he's too old. And I don't think he would do even like what Olivier is doing. So where was my one? So Clay Matthews is there. Oh, Darren Lee. Darren Lee is a player from Ohio State, so maybe I'm a homer in that sense. But I've always thought that he was a great coverage guy. He's a little bit on the smaller side, and that's why I would think he'd be. If you remember, Jeff, was it last year that we traded him? Oh God, we traded him to Philadelphia. What was his name now? He came off the edge and was a linebacker, and this is gonna upset me, but it seemed like his first year here. Oh God, dude. It's gonna bug me.
No idea who you're talking
It's gonna bug me. We'll get off of this topic for right now because if I sit on it, I'll remember it, but I don't want to take up too much time. So we'll move on from it. But there are guys in free agency that I think you could plug and play and have as situational guys. I'm more on the linebacker side. I'm not really on the safety side. If you wanted to go out and get a safety free agent that you were talking about being a veteran, Jeff, I've always put my money on Eric Berry. I don't know why he's not signed on a team. I don't know if he's calling it quits or whatever, but he'd be one of those guys that he's a free safety, fantastic guy. He's fought through a lot of stuff, cancer, injuries, phenomenal player. I would be willing to go out and sign him, but I just don't know that they feel that the safety position is the one that they need to attack. So
I really just hope Stefanski, and company isn't operating under the, it's like not broke, so don't fix it, because I mean, we are 5-2, but it's just pretty clear that the two above average offenses that we faced, we couldn't hang with. We got absolutely torched. And I think that this is probably probably the third or even second best offense coming up here with this Raiders team. Even though we made the Steelers offense look really good, I think that this Raiders offense probably is a little bit better, and that's even with Josh Jacobs kind of having a down year almost so far through the first 6 or 7 weeks. I mean, he had his opening week was, I'm pretty sure he had 2 or 3 touchdowns, but I mean, he's not even playing that well. But I think this type of offense from the Las Vegas Raiders is kind of built to carve this Cleveland Browns defense.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So Jeff, I found out who it was. Do you remember Jernard Avery?
Yeah.
Do you remember that he was phenomenal in his rookie year, and then last year when Freddie Kitchens had his whole thing with vendettas with Njoku, Higgins, Jernard Avery, all quality players. Yeah, I mean that's one of those guys that I would wish to have back just as a linebacker slash edge rusher. But yeah, so let's move on to the Raiders game. And so me and you have been talking about the Raiders. I think they're the third best team that we will have played this entire season. And so you've talked to me that you've watched a little bit of their highlights and such just to try to get a understanding for what they do well and such. So what did you see in particular, and what games did you watch?
So the only one I watched was the Buccaneers game, just because they lost. They're I don't know. I think we're a little bit more consistent than them. They catch the New England Patriots at probably the best football that the Patriots were playing all year long and lose to them and give up 36 points. Their defense is bad, but their offense, I mean, Darren Waller's been on people's radar for, at least last year. This year is his breakout season. He looks like a wide receiver out there. He's making crazy catches. He's athletic. He looks, obviously extremely talented. And Carr I don't know if it's Gruden. I don't know if it's Carr, maybe a combination of both. They just like target him. They love throwing to him in the red zone in specific. So I think Waller's probably your biggest threat. And then they just have, fast wide receivers outside of that. Henry Ruggs is probably one of the faster wide receivers in the league, and kind of a career revival, so to say, for Nelson Aguilar, who is somewhat of a walking meme in Philadelphia. And now he's, having a career best season, it looks like. He's got, almost 300 yards receiving already. So, I mean, I just am not a huge fan of how good their offense is going to be against, how bad our defense is playing. I think even though they did get smoked by Tampa Bay last week, I think that was solely because Tampa Bay's defense played really well.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the Chiefs game and the Tampa game, which I thought both games they won and lost in the fourth quarter. So it really got away from them in the fourth quarter against Tampa Bay. Um, it was really interesting too, because I thought that they started off really well, like you said, and then they just kind of went tick for tack. I don't think their rushing game ever got started. Josh Jacobs having a what you would consider a sophomore slump. I think you said that last podcast, but he really hasn't been able to get anything really started since that first game. He's had a couple of decent games too. They like to try to get him involved. I assume when they're winning, they try to get him to run out the clock and such. But that Kansas City game, another one where it kind of just went down to the wire almost. They brought it back really. The Chiefs brought it back really close, but the Raiders were able to pull away in that fourth quarter. So the thing that interests me the most about this is you said their defense is very porous. I think, they'll have some guys. They had some guys this past week. The reason they could have lost this game is because of guys they had on COVID list. They had guys that didn't get to practice the whole week. Their whole offensive line, the starting lineup was on the COVID list. Four of them ended up coming back. I think someone got hurt though in the game, so they're a little banged up. And then Damian Arnett, he is one of those other guys, one of the corners that started on their team from Ohio State. He should be back from the COVID list, but I don't know defensively. They're letting up quality points. Their first game they gave up 30, second game gave up 24, third game gave up 36, fourth game gave up 30, fifth game gave up 32, and then the final game they gave up 45. So they're a lot like us in the terms that if they're not winning the shootout, they're not winning that game. Yep. And so it's gonna be just that. It's gonna be a shootout. I think if we can't establish the lead first, then it's gonna have to be one of those games like last week was for Baker.
I just think their offensive, because watching the Tampa Bay game, Derek Carr has sufficient time in the pocket. Yeah. And that's what we really struggle with. I think that's pretty much the game plan for beating this Browns team at this point in time. Give your quarterback, not a whole lot of time. Obviously Myles Garrett is going to be, he's going to be in the backfield. But if you could limit Myles Garrett and give your quarterback a sufficient amount of time and, have the good medium to long range passing game, I think you're going to beat us. And I think that's kind of the formula that the Raiders are working with here. I mean, I didn't see Derek Carr under that much pressure in the highlights. Obviously they might not have shown some of those parts of the game, but I definitely think that their offensive line is good enough to, limit Myles Garrett. Hopefully not. Hopefully he's back there a lot, but I think this is a game where our defense gets torched, and I think this is a game where we torch their defense. Probably is going to be last person to score wins.
Yeah. Usually I like to start games. If we get the choice, we won't this time because we're at home. But if we win the coin toss, I usually like to start games on defense. Against a team like this, against a team like the Raiders, Derek Carr is playing very efficiently is the thing. And so I don't really want to give them the chance to get off to, a nice start. A lot of teams, they build off of that. And so I would say I would like for us to be able to start on offense, establish the run, and just kind of get Baker in a rhythm. He doesn't have to, go off like he did last game, but his efficiency just needs to be it needs to be on par with Derek Carr essentially for this game is my opinion on that. Switching over to the defense though, we're going to need to find ways to create pressure without Myles. You were saying, if they can buy time for Derek Carr with subduing Myles a little bit, then they're going to have a hell of a game against us because, a lot of the plays that Derek Carr hits on are those deep balls to Nelson Aguilar and to Henry Ruggs and to Darren Waller. Darren Waller is kind of like you even texted me, he's the top 3 tight end right now. He's really good at kind of getting away from people and kind of getting into that deep third, but he's also really good at the release routes and, the simple, being in the middle of the field kind of reception. So my thing is, Terrence Mitchell needs to play like early on. Terrence Mitchell, like the first 2 to 3 games, Terrence Mitchell, these last couple ones, I haven't been very impressed or very happy with him. Obviously, Denzel is going to do Denzel things, but he only covers one side of the field. And with a team that has Henry Ruggs and has Nelson Aguilar, 2 guys who have been consistent on tape with just burning corners at this point, our corners are going to need to play really well if it's man coverage. I think Kevin Johnson will have a busy day as well because from what I see, they like to put guys into the slot and get the mismatch with a linebacker, which is, I think we do that well. I think our slot corners don't get too, and Kevin Johnson is our slot corner. I don't think he gets beat too often. But the important thing will be our safeties and our linebackers being able to keep the middle of the field kind of muddied and kind of, lure Derek Carr into some traps. I hope Joe Woods can, dial up some looks for Derek Carr and make him kind of, think something's there that he usually has and kind of just, play off that. The defense most importantly needs to get back on track with getting the turnovers. Myles Garrett can't be the benefactor of, getting all those turnovers, and Denzel Ward, it needs to come from other players. Other players need to step up on this team, on this defense specifically. So that's what I'll be looking for in this game.
I'll be curious. I'm curious of 2 things defensively. I'll be curious, who Denzel's covering. I think it's probably a coin flip. And I think whoever he doesn't cover probably goes for a huge game. Sadly. And 2, I'll be curious as to our blitz schemes this week because we blitzed a lot last week. And I think that was solely because the Bengals kind of show themselves really early on as being one-dimensional. So this Raiders team is, even with Josh Jacobs not playing as good as he did his freshman year, it's still more balanced than, Joe Mixonless Cincinnati Bengals squad. So I'll be really curious what Joe Woods has, like you said, dialed up for as far as blitzing or as far as how we're going to cover the middle of the field. And, but you're totally right. We're going to need somebody to step up. I mean, we're going to need Terrence Mitchell to play probably his best game of the year. We're going to need Sandeo to just not get burned. And, hopefully we have some contributing factors from some other guys on the field.
Yeah, I'm hoping for, more of Ronnie Harrison. I hope they find a way to get Sheldrick Redwine in there, if it's like rotational or however it is. I think this is going to be the first week where our safeties could do a rotation like we talked about in the past with, having Carl Joseph and Sendejo, and then on another drive have Redwine and Ronnie Harrison. My thing is, and talking about the blitz, I think the blitz needs to come from the linebackers for me, because you can't leave one of these linebackers on Darren Waller or on someone who's in the slot, because they have weapons. They have weapons to use, and Derek Carr will find the mismatch. That's just how he's been playing this season. So if you're going to bring the pressure, and if you're going to leave someone in coverage, blitz two linebackers or blitz a linebacker, but at least keep Malcolm Smith in coverage or keep Mac Wilson in coverage. Right. Everyone else, Goodson, his primary job on the defense should be to, fill holes and to be blitzing. And same with Sione Takitaki. I mean, if those two are on the field and they're not filling holes and they're not blitzing, then I don't want them on the field personally.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I agree with blitzing the linebackers. I think that's probably your best chance. And just, I don't know. I think Gruden is a pretty decent sized risk taker. So if we could catch, Derek Carr making some stupid decisions or having some bad throws, I think, kind of a common theme that me and you have discussed almost every week is just win the turnover battle. And I mean, it doesn't matter who it comes from. If Denzel's making the play, but, somebody else, reaps the benefits of it like we saw last week, I mean, that's fine. And just make sure that our offense, holds the ball and protects it more than their offense.
Yeah, I think what's going to end up happening is in the turnover battle, it's going to be a lot for our defense's case. And I think it'll be a lot more of guys having to win their one-on-one battles in terms of coverage. I think, I don't think you'll get a lot of, two covered or two guys in coverage and they're both converging on the ball this time. I think Denzel's going to need one. I think Terrence Mitchell is going to need one. And then a lot of just PBUs. I mean, that's most important. As long as you can get Derek Carr to have to play a little bit risky and have him throw those 50-50 balls, which he hasn't really had to do a lot this season. Like I said, the games he's lost, I think he's lost them in the fourth quarter. So
if you can get him, he has 13 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions with a north of 80 QBR. So I mean, he's efficient, like you said.
Right, and I think a lot of teams like to defer when they win the toss. So I'm hoping that if that's the case and they win the toss, I hope that we can get the ball. Either way, I hope we can get the ball to start. I want to start on offense. I want us to, because this game's at home. I'm going to the game again. And we really do get loud. And I really think it showed in the Indianapolis game. I think, Phillip Rivers played one of his worst games, and he came back and bounced back the next week, which was impressive by him, but not very impressive when he was, in our house and everything. So, it might be hard for the Raiders to, come all the way out to Ohio where it's going to be cold. They're not going to really be used to that right now. And so, there's a lot of different factors that can be playing into this game. But just to switch back over to the offense really quickly, me and you talked about it. I said this has to be Kareem's best game. Kareem Hunt has to really, we didn't get the run established last game. We didn't get the run established against the Steelers. He even said that in an interview today that, defenses have been keen in on the run, and that's fair, but we still have to be able to, get those yardage. We need to get that yardage. We need to be able to get the push up front and make the holes so Kareem can, do what he does best. But he also just needs to, make things happen. That's what he was known for. That's what he is known for. And so he needs to play his best game. I need, 100 yards out of him rushing the ball at least. So that's my take on the offense. Obviously, I would love to see Baker just play super efficiently again and have a fantastic game. But I think the key to winning this one is going to get the run game established again.
Just another, unfortunate week missing Nick Chubb, because I just think, I think we have 200 rushing yards, minimum as a team if he's, 100% healthy. But, got to work through injuries. Also, Wyatt Teller being down doesn't help the situation. Austin Hooper is, proven to be an above average blocking tight end this year, which I don't really think a lot of people, kind of expected from him. But I mean, that's another guy down that does aid our run defense to some extent. But I think Kareem Hunt just, the versatility that he shows. I mean, we could run him as a wide receiver. We have before. I think his total yards are going to have to be close to 150, regardless of where he's getting it from. But I think we really saw last week with Cincinnati, we kind of torched them, excuse me, on the ground, whenever we played them on Thursday night, obviously with Chubb. But they kind of had good push into the backfield the second time we played them, and we torch them in the air. So that's where Baker's going to have his best throws is when defenses are specifically looking for our running game. I just don't think that this Raiders team could really keep up with the likes of Kareem Hunt and even maybe some flashes of Dearness Johnson coming out of our backfield. They looked brutally below average, trying to tackle Fournette and
Ronald Jones.
Yeah, the other Tampa Bay back last week. So, and I think Kareem's way better than both of those guys. So I think it's really going to be on the shoulders of Kareem, regardless of how he's getting his yards and however he's making the defense, cover him.
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, you talked about it in our text messages that their defensive line doesn't look anything special in terms of the run defense. Their run defense in general just doesn't look great. So, if we can get started, I think that's the key. I like that, in the past when we had Nick Chubb, we would kind of continuously pound the ball and it would end up, in the second half really opening up a lot more. But you kind of want that early success running the ball because it sets up the play action. It sets up the boot. It sets up just Baker having a cleaner pocket than usual. And so I really do think it's going to be on Kareem. I haven't really talked about him. I don't think so. You're usually the guy who gushes over him, especially in last week's game somehow where you picked his touchdown of all touchdowns to
the best.
be the best apparently.
The easiest or the best. For everybody involved. For my heart rate, it was the best.
Yeah, I guess for blood pressure's sake, yeah, it's probably the best when those happen. But yeah, I mean, he's gonna have to have a big game. Blocking wise, I think the team in general just needs to get back on track. It seems like it's been off since the Steelers game, so hopefully we can get it back on track. And this is the last game. This is the last game before the bye week, and that bye week
biggest game of the year.
Questionably.
No, it definitely is.
It's
biggest game till this point.
To this point, yeah, I'll agree with that.
I mean, think about it. We handle Indianapolis, and they've kind of, I don't even, what are they? Are they like 3-3, 3-4?
No, but I get what you're getting at because this is for playoff seeding, essentially a huge game. Because the Colts are actually 4-2 right now, so they're 7 and we're 6.
Yeah.
And the Raiders are 3-3, but they're sitting at 9. Yeah. They're tied at 8th with the Dolphins. So yeah, this is absolutely a huge game in terms of seeding and for future implications. So, but again, just imagine 6-2 going into a bye week, and you get guys healthy again. You get Wyatt Teller back, who was arguably the best offensive lineman, if not best right guard in the league playing at that time. You get Nick Chubb, your stud number 1. Yeah, I think it's likely because
I don't want to rush him back though.
No, but I don't think Nick. He's a smart guy and he knows his body. Even if we don't really get him back, I think we will.
Hopefully, get Hooper back too.
Hooper will be back. I think. But just to get guys healthy in general, Jacob Phillips would be good to have back. Maybe on the off chance Greedy Williams comes off of the IR, that would be incredible.
He's been in limbo for 10 weeks.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, that's still kind of bizarre, but just to get guys healthy, get that bye week, and then, kind of just start preparing for the second half of the season. And, even for the coaches, it'll be really good to assess what they've done good in the first half of the season, and then, what they need to improve on, what they can, game plan on and move forward. So, but
And another week, I mean, we're 5-2, third in our division, but another week where you got, I mean, we're in a pretty big AFC clash, and then you got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. So another week where a team ahead of us is going to pick up an L. I mean, you saw the Titans, lose to the Steelers last week. So, I mean, even if, just to get this out of the way, but worst case scenario, I mean, a loss, other teams are going to lose. I mean, everyone was freaking out during when we get smoked by the Steelers, but we actually moved up in the rankings, I believe, that week.
Yeah,
so I mean,
7-6.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a huge quality win. This is a big home game. This is one of the bigger home games, since me and you have been born and been Browns fans, believe it or not. I mean, the Raiders are not world beaters. I mean, I think we have a slight edge. 100% healthy, I think we have a huge edge. I still think we have a slight edge, especially being at home, them coming all the way across the country. But a team ahead of us in, the playoff standings is going to take a loss this week. And I mean, we've seen other teams, kind of falter. I know that this is mostly like Browns focus, but I mean, the Bills don't really look that good compared to what they started with, the whole season. I mean, there's other AFC teams that could, trip up and fumble. Other teams are going through what we go through.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, the Dolphins are a game back from being in the playoffs, and they, for some reason, decided to put Tua in at starter. I think that's the worst decision they've made.
The Rams defense with Aaron Donald,
against Aaron Donald. Yeah. But besides that, so I think what else is a big, just a statistical thing that you can get behind right now with this game is currently under Kevin Stefanski regime, the Browns are 3-0 at home, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Could go to 4-0. I mean, establishing that home dominance is kind of a big deal, I think. And I mean, I know for a fact it is. It's a huge deal to have teams come in and, not be able to get the win is hugely important, especially when you're starting a new regime for this team. And to get Baker's numbers up at home even more would be great. So
just even developing legacies with that whole sentiment. I mean, all the the good teams and the great teams. I mean, good luck winning at Baltimore. Good luck winning at Heinz Field, and good luck winning at Arrowhead the past couple years. So I mean, let's put First Energy on that list too.
Yeah, and so the correct number is three wins at home as of this point against the Bengals, against Washington, and against the Colts. And, Washington and the Colts game were some of our better games, in my opinion. So hopefully that continues to be the case. So predictions, I got to have it be really close this week. Honestly, it's going to be upwards in the 30s. I'm just trying to think if I'm going to have it at 38-35 Browns.
I got it even more than that. I got it 40-38 Browns. Kareem Hunt, 150 total yards, 2 touchdowns.
Wow. Yeah, I'd love to hit 40 again, but I really wouldn't like to see 35 points. I really wouldn't like to see them get into the 30s, but I think it's going to happen no matter what.
We're giving up. I think we're giving up 30.
Yeah,
I think this game's like 27-24 at half.
That would be monstrous. The heartache I would have at halftime would be monstrous. Monstrous. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really hoping for a high quality game. I do like when in retrospect, I do really like when games are very close and everything. I just don't like it when I'm a Browns fan in a Browns game where they're really close and it's like I'm at the stadium and I'm just
we got to get up for our fans too. Like we got to play inspired defense. Just besides Ward and Garrett, the obvious, studs. Someone else has to just step up.
Yeah, Ronnie Harrison, I think, is that guy. I think he could be that guy as well. He could be one of the more consistent players on our team. But yeah, we do. I think our players do get up though when we're at home. Besides that first game on Thursday night where it was a short week going against the Bengals and everything, I think we played extremely well at home, and so I hope that continues. And I hope that coming from Las Vegas going to Ohio, that's going to be a big change for them. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. So, Jeff, you got anything else you want to add before we sign off?
just protect first energy. Should be, like you said, good game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, like I said, we're going to call it there. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you could share this with all your friends, family. Just a quick side note, for all of you who follow us on Twitter and participate in the polls,
we appreciate you.
We appreciate you. Would love to hear some comments. Would love to see some comments. If you could somehow reach out to the 60 other people that also participated in the polls and get them to watch or get them to participate in
Big time
listening, that'd be huge. That'd be amazing. Also, just like always, if you could leave a like, comment, subscribe, follow. We're active. Trust me, I'm active on our medias and everything. And so I will absolutely, reach back. I have tried to reach back to some of you guys that have responded to us or said something about the polls and all that. So we'd love to hear from you guys, and we'd love to hear opinions and all that. And like Jeff said, we need to get up for these Browns and when they're home, and it's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.